Welcome, Service Talk. My name's Justin.
And this is Jamie. And this week, we have a very special guest. Senator Burt Jones is going to be joining us.
Absolutely.
As well as, it's about damn time, but we finally got Biden's mask mandates overturned. And then we're also going to talk about Joe Biden and his illegal trespassers, as we're going to call them.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much more. Really not much that can explain that much.
And they're trespassers.
Exactly. They're trespassers. All right, stay tuned. Now, welcome back. And as always, we always encourage you to like and share all the content that we produce, as well as go and subscribe to all of our pages wherever you see it. And really, if you're able to, please go to our website. You'll see it scrolling below on the ticker there. It's conservativestalk.com, and that's conservativestalk.org, and that's conservatives with an S. And sponsors if you're able to, because it really helps us to be able to create more content and be able to push it out even further and to be able to really expand upon what we're doing already.
Absolutely. And as always, we're going to remind you that it's 31 days until the Republican primary. So don't forget to get out and vote. Absolutely. And it's 201 days until we beat Stacey Abrams again.
And as always, I get chills every time.
It's really exciting because nothing's better than beating Democrats, but it's even better when you have someone that you can beat like Stacey Abrams, who thinks that it should be the governor, which we all know that's not true.
Yes. It's a very one-sided dynamic. They really criticize President Trump for not conceding the election because he actually did win. But when Stacey Abrams lost hands down and she doesn't concede the election, we're the evil ones.
Not only didn't concede, but is still in court fighting over,
literally still in court,
losing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, let's roll into it because we got a very special guest.
Absolutely.
And
you're going to want to hear from this man.
Absolutely. We have Senator Burt Jones. So I'm glad that we have Senator Burt Jones on the show.
We have a very special guest that we want to bring on, somebody that I'm sure all of you know and that we're all expecting great things from moving forward. And that is Senator Burt Jones. He's a great man, great conservative, and he's the champion for moving forward and making sure our elections stay secure. So, Senator Burt Jones, can you give us a little brief history on who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, it's good to be with you this afternoon, and glad to be on your show. Hear a lot of good things about it. Burt Jones, a sixth-generation Georgian from here in Middle Georgia, in a little town called Jackson, Georgia. Born and raised, went to the University of Georgia, walked on the football team up there, earned a scholarship under Coach Mark Rick, was the captain of the team when my senior year after we won the SEC championship, and then went back home and started working in a family business with my two siblings back in Jackson, Georgia. Married my high school sweetheart, Jan. She was Boswell, Griffin, Georgia, and we've got two beautiful children, Stella and Banks, who are 13. Stella just turned 13, and Banks is 9. I've been a business guy my entire life, small business owner, entire life. Finally decided a few years ago to run for public office, which was the state senate, and won that election. I ran against an incumbent Republican at the time, very entrenched Republican at the time, and beat him without a runoff. Have served in the Senate for the last 10 years, and I've seen what works and what does not work in the state Senate, and that's why I wanted to put my name forward for the lieutenant governor's position, which is an open post, and I've got a very simple platform. I want to eliminate our state income tax. I want to bring law and order back into our streets around the state, as well as back our men and women in law enforcement. Got to improve our K through 12 education with all the things that are going on. We need to go back to educating them instead of indoctrinating them. And then the big one, which is talked about all over the state, election integrity. Everyone's led from the start back in 2020 on election integrity issues. I'm the only one who spoke out after the 2020 election cycle, and the only one who brought forward solutions for that issue. And our message is it's a simple message, is resonating with Georgians all over from Brunswick to Blue Ridge, and I feel like we've got the momentum right now, but we've got to finish strong. Early voting starts May 2nd, and then the election is on May 24th. And we're excited about our chances right now, and looking forward to winning the primary and heading into November and take on the Democrats and Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard a lot of great things on the ground and getting around throughout North Georgia that you are the man to beat in this, and I just don't see that being able to happen. So you spoke a little bit about being the state senator in 2021 when we knew a lot of the election issues that were going on, and I know that you really took hold and you really took leadership and really driving that issue and creating that topic and really bringing that more to light. Can you? And I know one of the ways that you did it was through some of the committee meetings. Can you give us a little little heads up or a little information on that?
Well, after the 2020 presidential election, it was clear with all the feedback that we were getting from not just my constituents, but people all over the state, that there were a lot of irregularities that went on in the election cycle, and obviously the came to light about the consent order that Brad Raffensperger had gone into agreement with the Democratic Party and Stacey Abrams, and I knew immediately that if we didn't get into a special session and overturn that consent order, then Kelly Loeffler and Senator Perdue at the time wouldn't have a chance in the runoff. And so the objective was initially to get into a special session to overturn the consent order. The media never says that. All they want to talk about is how we wanted to overturn the presidential election. I wanted to investigate what went on in 2020. I did want to do that, and I still think it should be done. Investigate all the irregularities. But the whole essence of why I wanted a special session was to give Loeffler and Perdue a fighting chance. Because the way from the drop boxes to the chain of custody to signature verification and all that kind of stuff, it was ripe for a lot of mischief to go on around that whole process, and that's what happened. And look, I led the charge on that, and then I had my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, mainly the leadership, the guy I'm running against, along with the lieutenant governor. They didn't like myself and a couple other ones speaking out against everything, so they stripped us of our chairmanships. They stripped us of our committee assignments, thinking that they would silence us. And all they did was, in my case, all they did was liberate me and make me want to go at it harder. And I do think it's funny though now that he, along with a lot of other people, are trying to run on the issues that I have was the first one to talk about, and the first one to even whisper about it, and now they all want to act like they were at the forefront of everything. But that's the reason why President Trump has endorsed me in my candidacy for lieutenant governor, because he knows who was in the trenches with him, fighting for election integrity and fighting for investigations and things of that nature. And it's the list is very few, I can promise you that. And there's nobody running against me who was in this race for lieutenant governor who was anywhere close to getting involved with that process. So, and if when they tell you something differently, then you need to consider the source, because I can assure you they're not being honest with you.
Oh yeah, that's going around pretty rampantly up here, and especially in North Georgia. So, you're running for lieutenant governor.
Yep.
I've looked up a lot of your stuff on your website, and I do have to say, outside of me meeting you in person and outside of what I've learned about you through others that know you a lot better than what I had done previously, I have to say, I love everything I'm seeing. There was one
Right.
thing that really jumped out at me that I really enjoyed seeing was the reduction of regulations when it comes to getting permits. That's actually a very massive issue around here, especially with this area being a very trade heavy area. There's a lot of applications, a lot of permits that you have to get in order to do that, and a lot of people just feel it's very burdensome and overly regulated.
Right. I mean, it's going on all over the place. You
Yeah.
know, I'm like I said, we're in, you know, several businesses, and mostly in the retail wholesale fuel business, but also in some other things. And we you know, we do business in a lot of different counties around the state. And I can tell you, the biggest hindrance to businesses right now, it's not just labor, but it's the cost of trying to get a project or anything off the ground due to overburdensome regulations, whether it's at the state or local level. And but the locals from municipalities and counties, quite frankly, have a lot of them have adopted the same types of rules and regs, and you know, it's gotten to be where you almost have to have a full-time engineer, architect, or an attorney on staff to get anything done, and it's just really ridiculous, you know, because I can remember it wasn't that long ago that you know, the ease of doing business, the ease of doing projects, and things of that nature have not always been so burdensome on business owners. But you know, whenever you're held up um, on a project because of some government entity, it costs you time and money, you know, and a lot of people say time is money, and I agree with that. But it costs you time and money and resources, and we need to continue to be a great state to do business in. We need to be a friendly state to do business in, and you're not going to be that way by having counties, municipalities, and even state government being overburdensome with the regulatory process and not being customer service friendly when it comes to getting back to people in a timely manner. And that's something that you know, we like local control and all that, and I'm all for local control, but I want to make sure the local control is adapting and being compatible with the you know, with the folks who produce the jobs and make the economy run. That's small business. So I'm a big proponent of less regulations, less burdensome taxes and things of that nature. And I've always been like that. I've consistently always voted like that when I was in the Senate, and want to take that same leadership to the lieutenant governor's position.
Like I said, I love every bit of it. It all looks great. I know you're pressed for time. I just have one more comment that I would like to make before you get back on the road, and that's
All
it.
right.
I sincerely enjoy and I really like the fact that you're actually calling or you're coming on the show from the road.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That just y'all are actually out in between events and in between campaign stops, and you're actually taking the time to do another one in between. That just really shows to me the dedication to what you're trying to do and the fact that you're actually trying to work and to really earn a lot of these votes. So I just have to
excellent. Well,
that's awesome.
I appreciate that, and yeah, we are on the road. As you well know, it's a big state, 159 counties, and it's not easy to get around to them. So, but it's a shoe leather game. This post, you know, we'd like to be up on TV as much as we can, and we are on TV right now. But you know, I tell folks all the time, these campaigns, they don't run on IOUs, and they're not charity organizations. So it takes financial support from a lot of our supporters, which we've got a lot of, and it just takes a ground game, quite simply. And we feel like we've got the best ground game as well. And we're going to keep working till May 24th. And if we win, we win. If we lose, we win. You know, I'm not in politics because it's something that I got to have as a title or anything. I tell my wife all the time I'd be a much better husband, father, and business person without politics. But right now it's too important it's too important for business people to sit on the sideline, and we need to be engaged, and we need to worry about what's going on from our school systems to our local and state government. And anyways, and that's the reason why I'm running. And I hope to earn your viewers' support. And if people would like to get involved with our campaign, please tell them to go to BurtJonesForGA.com. And we'd love to have them involved, love to have them engaged. And like I said, and if they want to be on a winning team, everybody likes to be on a winning team. That's
absolutely
that's another thing. So, but thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, sir. And I want to wish you the best of luck when in your endeavors moving forward, because in all honesty, I already can foresee the future a little bit in this. I know that you're going to be our next lieutenant governor. I have no doubts about that. You have too much momentum moving forward, and it's just, you're doing too great of a job.
Well, I appreciate that. It's very kind for you to say, but we're going to keep working like we like we're just ahead by a point, even though we're ahead by a lot, but we're going to keep working like that. So but we can't do it without all the support, all the volunteers, and all the people engaged. So thank you again for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
And you're welcome back anytime. And again, thank you for joining.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Good to talk with you.
See you soon.
See you.
All right, bye.
Wow, that was awesome.
Absolutely. Senator Burt Jones is an amazing guy. He was a great legislator. He's going to continue to be even a better head of the Senate.
And I'm really excited to see what this guy's going to do in the future. It was really awesome for him to join us on our show, especially take time. I mean, for him to even be like on the road and still take time to join us on our show. Thank you.
And I think that really speaks a lot to what he's wanting to do, and the fact that he's so dedicated to this job and to what he's wanting to accomplish with it, because he's actually taking the time in between campaign stops to really be able to speak to other people and to really be able to get his message out even further than what he had.
So as much as I want to talk about Burt Jones some more, let's roll into the hot topic, and that is, we finally got Biden's mask mandates overturned.
Absolutely. Hallelujah, pass the ammunition. It's
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was about to come to that.
Yeah.
So a federal court or federal judge down in Florida, actually, so they issued they issued an order, that a nationwide injunction against the CDC's order that literally stopped the Biden administration from being able to enforce these the federal mass transit, the mask mandate. So we saw clips from across the country of people or passengers on airplanes just about as soon as the ruling came out. The captains came over the intercom and were saying, "All right, the mask mandate's been overturned. Take them off if you want." And then you had people just cheering for joy.
Cheering. Because come on, man. Like, I don't want to take away, because, COVID is a real virus.
It was, yes.
It is
a real virus.
It's a real virus.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've had it.
A lot of people lost loved ones because of it. So I don't think we should take away from that.
Oh, no, not at all.
But they politicized what was going on, and it's never been more evident.
Oh yes.
Because of the inconsistencies. You had these same people who were trying to enforce these mandates from their office, not following it themselves. We've seen that time and time again.
Absolutely.
And then at the same time, like, if you've been in an Uber or Lyft, it's more. Yes, they were supposed to have it on, or even a taxi, they're supposed to tell you have it on, and then your driver would tell you if they were okay with it or not, and some of them would wear them but wouldn't care if you had one on, and you know what I mean, like but then you get to the airport and you have to have it on, but it gets even more complicated there.
I mean, I don't use this term very much. It's actually a very it's almost kind of a saying that I picked up from the Walton and Johnson show.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that they were making fun of something, but the folks on the airlines were literally Nazis about having the mask on. Literally Nazis.
Like, I just didn't, to a certain degree, I didn't understand it, because and here's what I mean by that is I'm on the road a lot, all the time.
Yes.
Both are. We both are. And I saw someone not too long ago driving down the highway with their convertible down and a mask on. And I'm like, have you been conditioned to where like you're just like, I'm not gonna take it off? Like so in my mind, you know, me always playing devil's advocate. I'm sitting here thinking like, well, maybe this person like works in the medical field and they have to keep it on all the time, or maybe they do have some reason, some pre-existing conditions, and
the pollen count was really high that day.
But like, you're by yourself with the top off and a mask on. Like, if you were going to get it, like that's not going to stop you. You still have like.
So now I have a question. Did they have sunglasses on?
I've been funny.
If they did not have sunglasses on, then why would they have even been wearing it to begin with? Because it could have gotten through the membranes in their
literally
ocular caps.
I mean, at that point, why not have earmuffs on too?
No.
That was my whole thing when they started saying you had to wear goggles. I was like, then what about your ears? Like, are you worried? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have real bad sinuses, you know, and when pollen count gets real high, I'm down for at least 24, sometimes 48 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here thinking like, and it's real, like, I know when it gets real bad because I'll sleep on my side or the other side, one side or the other. And like, you know, my pressure build up, my ear, and it takes forever, you know, just to get the pressure release. So I'm sitting here thinking like, well, if you can get my sinuses through my nose and my eyes, then you can get there through my ears, but you never heard anybody talk about that. That's why I'm like, this was a political game.
Yeah. I've literally seen snorkel systems going out of cars with two people in the car at the same time. Snorkel systems.
That's extreme. That's, you know what that is? You watch too much TV.
Yes. Yeah, that means you believe way too much of what you hear.
Yeah. And you know, that's kind of been my thing about this whole thing. You know, when we started cutting the cord, right? Not to go down a tangent or anything, but when you started cutting the cord.
This is actually the show where we go down tangents.
When you started
the rabbit hole.
When you started cutting the cord and people are only receiving information from the networks and the places that they own that they only want to, right? You're not getting anything that is contradictory to your beliefs. You don't have to go seeking
it out. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like it used to be, I used to be a fan of going on Fox, and I would turn on Fox, and then, you know, because Fox and CNN, the only thing they got in common is that they're going to be telling the same story for 6 hours. Yeah. And so, you know, just different angles. So I would sit here and I would go, okay, here's Fox. Here's what Fox had to say. Here's what CNN had to say. And then I would go to Bloomberg or MSNBC and see what they had to say.
MSDNC.
Well, basically. Well, because then you go there and you're like, okay, so here's what the right's saying. Here's what the left's saying. Here's what I don't know what they're saying. And then here's, you know, how it affects you from a monetary standpoint. And so I will go through all that. And I'm like, now I'm going to form my own opinion. Well, those people who, and thank God it crashed, CNN Plus.
Wow.
You know, but like,
that was a major mistake.
Can you imagine those people who like
invested in that and put the money?
Not only invested in that, but just like people who were the type of person who would pay to only get CNN news.
Well, I mean, at the same time, I guess you could say the same thing about Fox Nation.
So I get the gimmick, right? Because again, we've reached the era to where people are cutting the cord, right? But the same thing with Fox Nation, right?
Cognitive dissonance is something of a real problem within this country.
Correct. Because, you know, I am deep in my belief of my conservative values, but
he's no rhino.
I do believe that like you have to form your own opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so like you gotta like you can't take it for just what Fox says, because Fox is the same thing as CNN. They're a business.
They're owned by Disney.
Yeah, it's a business model.
Yes, exactly.
You know, so when you go back through it, they're telling you something from a business perspective.
Of course, it's all about those clicks.
All about the clicks, and so. You know, I like Tucker, right? And I'm becoming a fan of Pierce Morgan, but remember they all were on CNN at one point too.
Of course.
So it's the same thing, you know.
He's been contracted to play a different character.
Yeah. And so you have to think about that when you think about the news. These are media networks.
Exactly.
And that's why people started switching to podcasts, different things like that, to get other perspectives.
And that's why you're here, because you want the actual truth brought to you by people who know it.
Correct. And it's people who know it. But to circle back, that's the thing that really tripped me out is once we started cutting the cord, you started seeing people who were more polarized in one opinion over another. And that's how you get people with snorkels going out a window in a car by themselves, is because like you're only getting your information from one source that is feeding it to you with an agenda behind it.
Of course. Absolutely. You couldn't be more correct about that, in all honesty. It is frightening to see the level that people will rise to and that they'll go to when a certain level of fear is attained.
Yeah.
So if you keep hitting that be afraid button, people are going to start being afraid, and they're going to start turning to what is supposed to be the records of source or records of information. And that's where as records of information, it's supposed to be truthful, accurate, and timely. And it's, quite frankly, it's become, as you said, a business model. It's all about making the money. It's all about getting those advertising dollars. It's all about getting the focus and the ratings reviews.
Yeah.
So,
and believe it or not, but I still can't believe it sometimes, but I'm in multiple honor societies when it comes to
somebody get this man a cookie.
Yeah. For when it comes to social science and social sciences and the different elements of that. And in sociology, that's one thing that you talk about is the groupthink that goes along with something of that nature.
Well, that
and
goes
how
back
it affects society.
That goes back to our 4th episode and talking about almost kind of the Lord of Flies mentality.
Yep.
We as a species are a group. We have group mentality. So regardless of what you are, or regardless of what side you fall on, you fall within these tents of this group. There's one side and then there's the other. That's humanity at its core.
Yep.
Even though our founders did not set up our government to run that way, that's how humanity is at its core.
Which is why we initially reverted back to that basic nature of instinct.
We're not going into this one today. We all saw that I won the last one, so whatever. But yeah, so we're now seeing that the Biden administration has come out and said that they are based upon the CDC's guidance, that they are going to be filing an appeal within, or having the Department of Justice file an appeal to this case. So as travelers have been unmasked for almost a week now, potentially within the next couple of days, they could have to remask. We have not seen we have not seen a surge in cases in COVID. We have not seen a spike anywhere. So travelers have been going everywhere for this past week without any spikes, without any massive transmissions. And it's interesting to think that now they might have to remask because masks are they're so medically safe and they keep us so protected.
We all know how well that's going to work out.
Well, yeah, I'd love to see them come back and say, put a mask back on.
Because and here's the thing. Similar to how you had it in other areas, because remember, unless you live in and I will call it this, a heavily populated state, not just state, like New York,
it's just a city, because outside New York City, it's very sparsely populated.
It is, but those numbers trend the state high.
Yes, I'll give you that. Yes,
those are the only places where restrictions such as for like restaurants and things like that are still in place to a certain degree.
Within the top 20%. Well, actually, I'd say less than 20%, because Georgia's the 10th most populous state in the union, and Georgia has been free forever. So
it's a very interesting concept. At the fact that I can go to a restaurant and it's fine, but if I go get on a plane, I got to put a mask on.
Yeah.
And then you have people who are good citizens who are saying, you know what, like, I may not agree with this, but this is the regulations that came down from the administration. Whether I agree with the administration or not, I'm gonna put on a mask, and then you're gonna have that freedom. Grant it to them where they don't have to wear it anymore, and you're gonna try to take it away again. That doesn't work twice.
Yeah, they had their entire lives to be able to travel freely without this obstruction and this overburdensome regulation placed on them. and then it was lifted for a week. I would love to see them try and place that back into, because there are already, I think it was 2,000 people on the mask mandate no fly list. There'll be a hell of a lot more after that.
Oh yeah.
But it also, so going kind of more
still on the
Biden
administration.
Yes, well,
still
not just that, but also on the whole COVID issue as well, very subtextually. The Biden administration is going to be lifting its Title 42 illegal trespassers, basically fast track back out of the country, or at least they come in, stop them, say no, leave.
Yeah.
So they're going to be ending that on May 23rd.
So explain in a little bit more detail to me and everybody else. Like,
so essentially, what this is it was a program that was enacted under President Trump, where it stopped any illegal trespassers from coming across our southern border from very specific countries, as well as just broadly, and said that if they were coming here, regardless of what they were saying, they were immediately stopped and turned around and sent back. And they were immediately stopped, detained, put together, and then flown back, more or less, is really what it was. So essentially, we were providing a one-way ticket back to the country of origin where they came from. It was still on taxpayer dime, but
it was the opposite of the caravans that everybody remembers. The caravans where we'll get to that part in a second. But everybody remember the caravans from when a year or so ago, when the Biden administration first took over, and you started seeing thousands of people.
Title 42 was still in effect at that time too.
Still in effect, and which is why they are trying to remove it and repeal it now, is because now there is nothing for Border Patrol, Coastal Guard, or there's nothing for them to stand on when it comes to people crossing the border.
Yes. So what they're doing with it is, under Title 42, there is only so much space and so many Title 42 flights that can go back to these other countries. So anybody else that crosses that would meet the quote unquote guidelines to be able to stay or to be able to have the procedural process for them to be able to go through that, they're given a taxpayer funded government cell phone, and they are told, all right, whenever you get to your destination, we need you to self-report and check in, and periodically check in and let us know what you're doing and where you're at and everything. And let's keep in mind that some of these procedures with under these amnesty, quote unquote amnesty claims, can take up to 8 to 9 years. So imagine keeping the cell phone, keeping track of it for 8 to 9 years, and periodically reporting in on that cell phone for 8 to 9 years.
And kudos to Texas for whatever you think about it. For whatever you think about it, whatever your opinion is on it, I've even heard people were like, well, you just gave them a free trip to DC. And here's what we're talking about. The state of Texas said, okay, they say that we're going to have to allow you to cross the border. You're going to stop. Most times you're going to stop in Texas first. We catch you. We see you. We're going to put you on a bus, and we're going to pay for that bus and bus you to Washington, D.C.
Put them right on Joe Biden's front doorstep.
And they were literally dropping them off in front of the White House at Union Station. So they get there. You remember when they used to call it Obama phone?
Yes.
Hey, you get your Biden phone, and then you get on the bus, and they send you to Washington, D.C. And here's the big thing for me. And this is why I'm big on categories. and this is why, for me, this is trespassing.
Yes.
Is because when I hear illegal, right, I'm thinking of that person from not just Mexico, but from Canada or Guatemala, Brazil, Europe, anywhere that came here and either came here and let their visa expire, came here for school, didn't leave or go through the immigration process afterwards to stay. To me, that's an illegal citizen. All right.
Well, they're not citizens at all.
Well,
they're illegally here in this country. They're an illegal resident.
They're illegal resident. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. To undocumented, to me, is that child who never had the opportunity. And a lot of them don't even know
Oh, they know.
Right. A lot of them don't even know.
Oh, they know.
A lot of them don't even know.
They know.
And so that, to me, that's what I hear, what I think of when I hear undocumented. I think of the child who had no idea, who probably found out when they went to go apply to college for the first time that they didn't have any papers and their parents had to tell them. You know, that's different in my mind. When I hear this, though, and see the things that are going on, this is purely political and awful. Because you're basically saying we're going to drop the law that stopped you. We're going to let you come in as you please. And then some of the things that, you know, I hope a lot of y'all have seen this, but on Fox and of course CNN didn't cover it, but a few other networks were covering this to where you had unidentified planes being flown in full of people from other countries, and they were just being dropped off.
Absolutely. So what he's referring to are literally unregistered flights that were flying into airports that had been closed because they were after hours. That airport only operates between, for example, from 9 to 5.
So before we get into think about this. Like most counties in Georgia have like a local airport.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Imagine your local airport just, you know, starting getting random fly-ins that weren't the military in the middle of the night, and there's nothing on the registry saying that these flights were coming in. So good law enforcement, some of these sheriffs were seeing this, and they were like, we're going to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. So they specifically, for in one instance, and there's actually a surveillance monitor. Well, there's the police cam monitoring the body cam where the police officer approached one of these individuals that was helping these people unload from these airplanes, and he approached one, and it come to find out that it was a federal official. Well, in all honesty, we have no idea if it was official or not. It was a federal employee who, under orders from a higher branch of the federal government, was not able to provide a state-issued ID. He was able to provide an identification, i.e. a driver's license, something along that line, but he was not able to say what department, what branch, or anything along that line they were from. But the best part of the most telling part about this is the fact that this gentleman, when pressed for this information, came back and said, well, if you really want to know what we're doing here and what's going on, just look at what administration's in office.
And you know what? That was the kind of thing that really got me when I saw that body cam footage. Was here's a guy who's like, I'm just trying to make ends meet for my family.
Absolutely.
You know, he was like,
doing his job.
And he was just doing his job. And that's what he said. He said, look, if you want to know what's going on,
just look at who's in office.
Look who's in office. I've been told that I can't tell you what department I'm with. I've been told I can't tell you what part, like,
can't show you an ID.
I can't show you an ID. But he's like, but I respect you all as law enforcement. And I'm going to show you that, you know, I have a registered driver's license. Here's my, government issued ID. Here's who I am. But, you know, this is what I'm told to do. I'm flying in a bunch of people who are not citizens from some country that I was sent to and dropping them off at your airport.
Yes. And it's also interesting to note that there were buses that were chartered at the very last minute, so that there's literally no information that could have been attained beforehand. So there was nothing that anybody would have been able to track, been able to follow, been able to obtain prior to these planes landing. So it's crazy to think that they're actually planning this in such detail to keep it so secretly. Why do they need to keep it so secret if it's not something that isn't wrong?
I know. We got to think of a gate for this, like trespass gate. You know what I mean?
Well, so now the reason why we use trespass is because it more accurately defines exactly what's going on. So the actual legal meaning behind trespassing means that you knowingly enter into an area where you're not supposed to be in a violation of both law and order.
And
they are literally entering into this country knowing that they are not supposed to be here, because they are all coming across and they're all saying, look, you know, I'm claiming amnesty. I would be persecuted if I went back to my hometown, because they have been told that if they do not say that, they will be expelled. So they know that it is against the law for them to be here like that. So trespassing or trespasser is the most accurate legal description for them that's available.
Yeah,
quite frankly.
And to go back to what we always go back to is why you need to get out and vote.
Yes,
is because there is another caravan that we've heard of.
Yes,
that is coming in, and it will be flooding the states around May 23rd, 22nd.
Actually, the exact day that Title 42 runs out, May 23rd.
And if you're in Georgia, if some of these people come in, then that's really a day or two before the primary election. So imagine this. You got a bunch of people who come in, and we don't know. We have no idea what they're giving outside of a cell phone.
Nope.
We have no idea if they're giving them any other kind of, identification. What if these people like came in, and if, you had Stacey Abrams have her way, they could be voting in, and with Georgia being a non-caucus state, like, they could go in and just say, hey, I'm a Republican today, and then grab a Republican ballot and taint our elections. That's why we got to have people get out and vote.
Absolutely. And it's also interesting to note that why this is such a big deal, why it is such a massive problem for these people to be flooding in like they're about to do after this Title 42 is lifted. So our entire system has been so strained under COVID that when you have this massive influx, and we have people within our country that need some of the assistance and some of the governmental care, for instance, the VA, and we're going to kind of explain that one a little bit more. But when you have this mass influx and these mass numbers coming into our country like this, and the fact that they're going to be going to where they are seeking this additional assistance, Americans are going to be left behind on this.
Yep.
Americans will not receive the assistance, the help, and the care that they need, and quite frankly, for a majority of it, deserve. And we're talking about the veterans on this.
Yeah, because so let's go into that, because we had talked about whether we're going to go into this or not, because this hits close to home.
Yes, very much so.
The situation that's getting ready to happen with the VA is really upsetting. A lot of these,
that's what it is.
Yeah, a lot of these resources that are for our veterans are getting ready to be used for some of these citizens based upon I can't remember if it was a executive order or something.
Essentially, yes, a directive.
A directive that the Biden administration has come in on, and then get this. They said that we're going to have $2 billion put into the VA for those existing veterans to still get the care that they deserve and better, but it's going to be over 20 years.
Well, what it is they're going to tear down the old institutions, facilities in specific locations, and to build new ones. But it's going to take 20 years to build those new facilities. So essentially, yes, it's going to take 20 years for these veterans who fought, who bled, who were harmed, and sacrificed to their country to receive this extra level or this level of care that they so rightfully deserve. Whereas when these trespassers come across our borders, they are pulling resources away from the VA. They have literally sent out the directive that says we are removing resources from the VA system and putting them towards the border and this incoming humanitarian crisis is what they're starting to call it. It's not a humanitarian crisis. If you close the freaking border, there is no crisis.
Yep.
If we had the wall built, there wouldn't be a crisis, because we would be in control of everything that is coming across. We would have access that we would say, this is where you're able to come. We can say the Remain in Mexico policy was genius, quite frankly. You can stay in another country until we finish processing your claim and vetting you out and finding out whether or not you're a terrorist, like the 23 that they caught at the border just during the past year in 2021. Imagine this: 23 massively suspected terrorists on a terrorist watch list were apprehended at the border. Now, there were, I think it was over 200,000 border crossings just in March alone.
Yep.
And the Department of Border Control or the Border Patrol and Customs openly admits that they have no idea just how many people actually got across because they cannot cover the entire border.
And you know, this reminds me of something. Again, me and my rabbit holes, right? And correlations. There's a Netflix show that's filmed here in Georgia,
Yes.
Ozarks.
Mm-hmm.
And this last part 1 of season 4 in Ozarks, like, was really shocking, right? Because you had this big drug lord from Central America come in, and he said, you know, I won't, your last job is you're going to get me into the country, get me a new passport, basically, give me a new life, and then I'm just going to walk away scot-free, and the FBI is going to leave me alone. Like, and then I start hearing and reading about this, because everything that we talk about on the show, like, you can Google it, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can find it like openly on the internet.
We haven't gotten any exclusives just yet.
Yeah,
but stay in tune. We've got some interesting facts coming shortly.
And so, like, when I'm sitting here thinking about it, and we talk about these 23 known terrorists who were apprehended, I'm sitting here thinking about, like, now what I saw and I thought was highly fictitious on the show is, like, could be possible, because like, can you imagine if someone comes in and they just walk across, I mean, they're just walking across the border, you know what I mean? Or swimming. They're just coming across the border. We don't know what country they're really coming from.
Absolutely.
You know, they can be coming from anywhere. It could be like a drug lord from Peru who just flew to the northern part of Mexico, walked across the border, and then we don't have the Border Patrol or the Coastal Guard. They're taking funding away from them in order to allow for this to happen. And look, I'm all for strengthening America, right? So if that's your argument for immigration, you know,
we need immigration. We do.
We do.
But
you know what I mean? Because
merit-based immigration.
Correct. So my big heartburn with this is if the Biden administration, if the left really wanted to tackle this, they're in the majority. Put up a bill.
Exactly.
Put up a bill.
Well, if by not solving this issue, they have something they can run on. A politician's best friend is a crisis and a problem.
So imagine now, they come in with HR1 or some other similar style bill. You drop Title 42, and then next thing you know, everyone who just got this free ride, and they're just telling them to check in on a phone, like, that is a sense of loyalty that someone who is not an American and understand how our system works would, of course, be in favor of. This guy got me here.
Not to mention that there are several states, well, not just states, but cities within several states that specifically say you don't have to be a citizen to vote. They literally let illegal trespassers vote in their elections.
It's asinine.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's mind-boggling, to be quite frankly.
This is why as good Republicans and conservatives and American citizens, why our vote is so important, because we have to make sure that good people are put in place to make sure that this doesn't happen, you know. And again, I want to go back to just good people and good conservatives, because
just Americans,
just good Americans, you know, because I don't agree with really anything that some of these people did, except for this one thing, that there were some people on the Democratic side who crossed the line, and that's how we stopped HR1, because we didn't have the numbers.
Well, thankfully, there are several Democrats that have crossed the line and are saying that dropping Title 42 would be a detriment to our country.
Yep.
Thankfully, there are some people that have enough sense, even on the Democrat side, to say, look, you need to slow your roll. You need to push back on this, and let's take a look at what this is actually going to do before we do this, because they understand that when dropping Title 42 and the massive trespassing or the massive influx of these trespassers, they understand that some of these trespassers are coming to their states, and the last thing that they want is their state overwhelmed to where the point that their constituents are having trouble getting a lot of the stuff that they need. And then who's going to be in the crosshairs at that point? They are.
You know, as a minority, I have a huge problem.
A minority?
Yeah. Some people don't realize it, but Black conservatives, we're a real minority. But it's what I hate that argument about it's racist.
Oh gosh.
Because like that's not anything about it.
No.
You know,
Nope.
it's the rule. It's upholding the rule of law. It's making sure that, again, that if our policies aren't working, that we as a country come together and try to figure something out that does work, that fits the time that we're in when it comes to immigration. And instead of sitting here and saying, you know, we have this problem, or, you know, we're just going to let everybody in, you know, let's really work to finding a median. You know, if the left is saying that the wall was too much, and we're definitely going to say that dropping all borders completely is out of the question.
Yes.
Like, let's have a conversation and really talk about like what could really be done.
Yeah, well,
but they don't want to do that, and they're in control.
not.
So that's how I know it's a political game to them, and they don't really care about these people.
Yes, it's also interesting to note that the Republicans also had the same problem. So we go back to 2016. The Republicans controlled all three chambers of Congress, 2016 to 2018. They didn't do anything.
Yep.
President Trump wanted to do something, but they didn't do anything.
Yep.
So, as I said earlier, a politician's best friend is a crisis and a problem. If they have something to run on, or it gives them something to run against. It gives them something to fight for. There's something that they tell people that they're going to fix and that they're going to solve.
Yep.
So another example is Social Security. They're not going to fix Social Security, because if they fix Social Security, then what are they going to campaign on?
How will you get the AARP on your side again if you fix Social Security? Which is again, like you were saying, another situation that if we don't revamp it, it's going to be gone. You know, if we don't revamp our immigration policy, it's going to be gone. If we don't revamp our abortion and adoption policies, life is going to be gone. If we don't revamp immigration, then we're going to have an influx and continue to have failure nationwide on infrastructure.
Oh, yes.
Which is another thing that we haven't, really touched on, which is still a problem, is that when you add more people, it doesn't just, we talked about the social services, and we talked about, what it does to the states, but it also is a additional burden on our infrastructure,
a crumbling infrastructure at that point. And it's specifically when you really go into something that a lot of people are having problems with right now, and that's access to high-speed internet.
Yep.
High-speed internet travels through cables, fiber, and now thankfully airwave. But at the same time, there is still only so much of it. It is a finite resource that is moving through these facilities
because of the infrastructure and where it's located.
So by adding all of these additional people and giving these social services that help people get access to this, especially these trespassers, to allow them to then they don't actually incorporate themselves in our society, that they impose their own culture on our society.
Yeah. So I really want to go down that rabbit hole for a second.
Let's do it.
Because to me, data is a utility.
Yes.
It is no different than
water, power,
anything else. And my utopian future, you will have someone from your utility provider, because that's what it is, Comcast or AT&T, come out, they read your meter, similar how Georgia Power or whoever your power provider is, read your power. And the same thing for whoever your water and sewer provider is. Your water goes out there and they check the meter. You will go to a house, you will check the data meter, and you will say, and your rate is either fixed because of your usage with them, or it's going to fluctuate based upon how much internet you're using in your house.
Yeah.
And the reality is that, and I know that that's a heartburn subject when it comes to the data providers, because the only way for them to get to that point is to get more government subsidies, which takes them into a whole nother category.
Yes.
But it also goes back to, what are we going to do to fix the problem?
Yes.
If it takes subsidies for them to put in the infrastructure, similar to how we make sure that a lot of people have power, right? If it takes them going into a form of similar how we have co-ops for other utilities, if it takes that, then why aren't we looking at that?
Well,
you
there
know,
are several that are looking.
They are,
and especially
Georgia's,
here in Northwest Georgia.
Northwest Georgia, and Georgia as a whole. We've had, you know, our General Assembly and our governor have done a great job at looking at what it's going to take to get infrastructure and data better provided to
rural
Georgia, and especially in South Georgia.
So I can tell you from firsthand, growing up in a house that had only satellite internet, you only had so much that you could do, and they did monitor how much coming in and out. And after you hit a certain limit, it automatically dropped down to literally just trickling in and out. It was a massive headache trying to even just do schoolwork.
Oh yeah, I can't even fathom. You know,
first world problems.
We'll say this, yeah, like first world. Kudos to this is a project that I know of down in Macon, Bibb County. They don't have access to high-speed internet, which is something that they're fixing because of the similar situation. The infrastructure is just not there. So while they're working on with the state and other providers on how they get the infrastructure put in, they went in as a county and said, okay, well, we're going to provide internet for students. So where your boys and girls clubs are, where your students are frequently going.
I believe they did that around here too.
They are providing free internet so that these kids can do their homework. Because nowadays you really can't do it without some kind of search engine.
Yeah, and especially during COVID when they literally shut everything down, and there were a lot of students that had no access to internet whatsoever.
Yeah, and then you're telling these kids that, you know, oh well, you know, sorry,
sucks to be you.
You can't come to school. Like what does that do to our youth and our future? It's idiocracy literally coming to life.
That's actually a great reference there. If you haven't seen it, watch Idiocracy. You will see a lot of correlations between now and that movie. And
a lot of scary correlations.
Yes, it will be frightening. So parental discretion advised.
Yeah.
So 20 seconds. If you had a magic wand and can stop anything and change the world, what would it be?
20 seconds. Three things, right? One would be data. Would be a utility, and we would fix our infrastructure. Two would be we would revamp abortion and adoption, because to me those things are intertangled. We can't stop abortion without fixing adoption. And then the last thing was we would actually sit down and have a real conversation about immigration and how to fix it.
I love it. I think my vote's for Jamie for King of the World. It's definitely not Stacy, and that's always the best thing though.
Yeah,
it's the best thing about Jamie.
Anybody's better than Stacy. Anybody's better than Stacy.
Oh well, we've got sticks and twigs out here better than Stacy. But as always, we want to encourage you to like and share all of our content, and of course subscribe to any of our pages where you see any of our content being produced. And if you are able to, please go to the website that you see scrolling at the bottom, conservativestalk.org, and that's conservatives with an S, and hit the sponsor button at the top right-hand side, because we can use every bit of that to help push what we're
everything we do goes back into the company.
And as always, Jamie,
as always, my favorite part, reminder that you have 31 days until your Republican primary, and you have 201 days until we beat Stacey Abrams.
Just chills.
Don't forget, always, we got to keep the red surge alive to rebuild the red wall.
Hashtag 2022 red surge. And thank y'all for putting up with our antics, and we'll see y'all back here again next week.